Today on Sports Central, we'll be going over our next schedule preview of this 2020 offseason, and it will be over the West Virginia Mountaineers. And this is a team that went 5-7 in the 2019 season. Overall, it's a bit of a decline compared to how they were in 2018. But of course, they had a lot of tough losses after that 2018 season. So, yeah, rightfully so for West Virginia, but how will they do in 2020 is what we're going over here today. We're going to be going over a few players that this team will be losing, who they're going to be returning, and also going over their schedule for the first time this offseason. Starting off with the games that West Virginia has had since November. They did not make a bowl game, of course, because they were not eligible. They were 5-7. They lost to Texas Tech on November 9th, 17-38. They got a good win against Kansas State on the road, 24-20. They also had a loss against Oklahoma State, 13-20. Then they finished off the season with a win against Texas Christian, 20-17. So yeah, overall, they finished off the season 2-2 in November, but they did start the season 3-5. So yeah, at that point, it was pretty tough for them to even have a chance at making a bowl game. But yeah, certainly once again, just the losses were so heavy for West Virginia after last season. Of course, everyone expected it to be a bit of a down year. Of course, after losing Will Greer and a really good part of this offense, I mean, they had a great senior class, no doubt on that. So yeah, certainly for West Virginia, I mean, it was a bit of a down year, but this was a very young team last season, and I think with the experience that these guys are gaining going into 2020, this could be a much better season for West Virginia. Moving on to returning production for West Virginia, we see they return their starting quarterback, Austin Kendall, which that's going to be a huge return. He had right around 2,000 yards of offense, along with 12 touchdowns and 10 interceptions last season. So yeah, his touchdown to interception ratio was absolutely horrible. 12-10 is basically a 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. So yeah, certainly that's something he really has to improve. If this West Virginia offense is going to be good, Austin Kendall's got to stop throwing interceptions. Well, he can't stop completely. I mean, everyone has their interceptions, but 10 interceptions is a bit excessive for a quarterback that only has 12 touchdowns. But they do also return their second quarterback in Jarrett, and Jarrett had 818 yards of offense, along with 7 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And so, yeah, they got both quarterbacks. It'll be interesting to see who wins the starting job there. Of course, Austin Kendall had a bit more experience from last season. They return their top running back, Letty Brown. That's going to be a good return too. He had over 500 yards of offense with 2 touchdowns. They also they lose their second running back in Kennedy McCoy, and he had right around 500 yards of offense with 4 touchdowns. They do return their top wide receiver in Sam James. That's going to be a huge return, as he had right around 700 yards of offense with 2 touchdowns. And they do lose their second wide receiver in George Campbell. That's going to be something that's a bit concerning, of course, because he was a big-time part of this offense too last season. He had right around 500 yards of offense for this team, as well as 7 touchdowns. And then TJ Simmons, they do return him as well, their third wide receiver. He had right around the same stats that George Campbell did. He had right around 450 yards of offense with 4 touchdowns too. So yeah, it's good. I mean, especially this running back core with Letty Brown. I think they're going to be great there. This wide receiver core has a ton of potential to improve, even though they're losing one of their top 3. But yeah, they do lose their 1 offensive lineman, 2 defensive linemen, and 1 linebacker, as well as 1 in the secondary. So yeah, this defense is losing 4. So that's going to be tough to deal with. But of course, most teams on average would lose 3 to 4. From what I've seen from about the 30 teams I've scheduled previewed so far, usually we'll see about 4 to 5 losses on the defense, and West Virginia's having right around 4. So yeah, they're kind of on the average mark there. But chances of a bowl game in 2020, I mean, I know most West Virginia fans probably aren't really talking about a bowl game after last season, but nonetheless, I mean, 5-7, I mean, they were pretty close last season, and I think that they will make a bowl game in 2020. I think there's a chance that they go 5-7. But I do expect them to at least get to 6-6. I don't think that they'll do anything crazy like winning the Big 12, but I do expect them to make a bowl game next season. I do expect it to be an improved season for sure. Looking at your 2020 schedule, though, West Virginia does not have it all that easy. I mean, you got Florida State and Maryland, so 2 of your non-conference games are in Power 5 conferences, like the Florida State. Florida State's in the ACC. You got Maryland in the Big 10, which of course Maryland last season was absolutely horrible. So yeah, that could be a very winnable game there. But of course, Florida State's a team that has a ton of room to improve. I think they've got a ton of potential heading into 2020. So you got a couple of tough games in there, but they do have their entire September not home, and that's kind of a rarity. Usually you'll have an away game at some point in your September, but West Virginia does not. They're at home for the entire September. But in October, they do have a couple road games. You got Texas Tech on the road, as well as Texas on the road. You also see TCU and Kansas at home for October 10th and 24th. Then in November, probably going to be your toughest month of the season. You got Oklahoma on November 7th, Oklahoma State on the 14th on the road. Then you also got Baylor and Iowa State to finish off the season. You got Baylor at home and then Iowa State in Ames. And of course, Oklahoma State and Iowa State are two teams, if you've seen their schedule previews, I do expect them to be much better going into 2020. Those are two teams that certainly could go on to surprise some people and win the Big 12. Or at least make it to the Big 12 championship for that matter. And so, yeah, both of those games are going to be really tough. Yeah, here's what I'm expecting. Once again, in our schedule previews, we don't go over every game. We just go over a couple. And so, yeah, in your actual prediction, your actual game predictions will be in our official prediction video coming out this summer. Yeah, here's what I'm expecting. I'll give you a record estimation of 5-7 to 7-5, and your two guaranteed wins will be against Eastern Kentucky and Kansas. You got Eastern Kentucky being one of your non-conference games on the 12th, and then of course Kansas being on the 24th of October. And I considered putting Maryland on this list as well, but really we all know how Maryland came out on fire in the 2019 season. If you remember, they actually got a ranking before week 3, and it's super hard to believe that they went from 2-0 to 3-9 as the season went on. But yeah, for West Virginia, I think if Maryland doesn't improve very much, I think that should be a very winnable game there. Florida State is also very winnable. Of course, with it being at home for West Virginia, that will be very helpful. But yeah, nonetheless, I do expect them to get, your record estimation will be 5-7 to 7-5. So I do expect them to make a bowl game. But there is still that slight chance that you don't and that you miss it one game out. I don't expect them to go 4-8 or 3-9. Nothing worse than 5-7 will happen. Yeah, nonetheless, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on West Virginia. Let me know your record predictions as well as your game predictions. But yeah, thank you guys all for watching once again. Be sure to like and subscribe if you